Hi there, welcome to Lad Farm. Today we would like to look at crop farming and particularly looking at those 6 key points that you should be able to really master if you want to succeed in crop farming. As people out there, we are always looking out for something that we can be able to start, especially in the farming angle. And if you're interested in crops, it is very, very important that you consider some of these 6 key components so that you don't have really to try and juggle left and right. When you have this kind of information, it helps you to get well grounded from the word go. The first key point is really that you should have the right choice of crop that you would want to start with. Remember, we have a number of crops. Maybe you're interested in doing cereals, or you're interested in doing vegetable farming, or you're interested in doing fruit crops. It's key that you get to understand exactly what your area of interest is. So if, for instance, you choose a particular aspect, say you're going to go into cereals, then the next step will be what type of cereal. For instance, if you say you want to go into rice production, we have so many types of rice. What particular rice variety do you want to go in for? It's very, very important depending on where you're located. If you want to do upland rice or if you want to do the rice in the wetlands. So if it's vegetables, there are all sorts of vegetables. What kind of vegetables do you want to go in? Do you want to specialize into high value crops like, let's say, chili farming? Do you want to do, for instance, cabbages and carrots? But even if you choose that particular one, you should be able to identify the variety that best suits the soils where you are having your land to cultivate. So it is important that you get the right choice of crop. Now, once you finish that, then you have to have the right team. It is important to make sure that as you start, you're not going to do it alone. You have workers that you want to employ, but these people should be able to have this same vision. It has to be a shared vision that you can be able to start the journey with them properly. Ensure that you select the team that is passionate, that is going to follow the instructions, and also try their best to see how you can achieve that dream, because by you achieving, they're also achieving when they get their goals and their payments and so forth, and stability into the labor market. So second point is ensure that you have the right team. It will be very, very, very helpful as you go on establishing yourselves in this crop farming venture. Third is to ensure that you do the right agronomic practices. Various crops have various demands. There are crops that don't necessarily need a lot of care, but there are those that really are very, very sensitive. For instance, if you have chosen to do chili farming, what variety have you chosen to do? But also, how are you following the agronomic practices? For instance, you need to plant on time. If you realize that this is a crop that takes maybe 3 months to flowering period, and the instructions are that it's good to set up at the onset of the rainy season, it is important that therefore you generate your nursery bed, set up your nursery bed way earlier. So you can start setting up the nursery bed during the dry season. If you anticipate, for instance, the rain to start in March, set your nursery bed at the start of February, because that nursery bed you're supposed to be watering it so that by the start of the rains, come 1st March, then you have your what? Your seedlings ready to transplant. Also ensure that you follow other demands, like ensuring that there is good pest control in your farm, where you have to apply things, fruit fly trap, having certain fungicides to spray, prevent from fungal infections and or any viral infections that might be coming in your garden. And some of these ones are recommended by the ministry. For instance, if you're targeting these crops for export, there are those chemicals you cannot use if you're targeting the export market. So it is very important that you find out this information, and the research officers, the district agricultural officers come in handy, plus also the other members, the communities out there that you relate to in this particular value chain. It helps you to make sure that you are doing things the right way. Then you also have to ensure that you do the right record keeping. People come for inspection, it's the records that will speak for themselves. They'll be able to see how you're doing it, types of chemical that you sprayed, what type of chemical, which date did you spray, what volumes did you use on a particular crop. And if you spray, for instance, a fungicide that takes 2 weeks before you can be able to touch that fruit and harvest it, it's important that when you've recorded it, when they come and the buyers are trying to pick, they are able to look at your file and see that it's actually 2 weeks have elapsed, and therefore it is the right time to start picking this crop. Sometimes when you talk by word of mouth, people don't believe you, but when you have your record, then people will trust what you're saying. Remember, sometimes they'll go and also do the tests and test some of these products that you've brought for the market. And especially if it's for the export, they even have to test it from abroad there. There are different approaches on how they handle it. You find the person who's going to buy your product, on one side, but the government inspector whom you've given the records will be able to send some of these forms you've been able to generate to the buyers out there. So by the time your products are arriving, they're able to test and see whether what the tests are saying from after testing your fruits or crops is corresponding with the form you have submitted to the government inspector. That is for the export bit, which is a little bit complicated. But even if it is the local market here, even if it's for your own consumption, once you have the record straight, you are able to determine that if this fungicide is supposed to take, say, 2 weeks after spraying before you can harvest, then you're supposed to follow that. Then it makes sure that you're eating healthy food. Now, remember, we have fungicides that are organic and also those that are inorganic. Now, for the organic ones, that one is very, very clear. You don't have to worry so much about, because it's normally generated from natural elements like leaves and other components that they combine to come up with a fungicide or a pesticide in that case. But if you are going to go for some of these recommended ones, it is very, very important that you are very careful on how you go about it, that you carry out the right market survey. Do research about the crop that you are intending to grow. Is it marketable out there? How is the demand? By the time you plant it and by the time it comes out, will it be the right time to target the niche market that you're trying to look out for? Will you be harvesting at the time when everybody is also harvesting and maybe the market is likely to be flooded? So it is key that you do that research and make sure that you're churning out your produce at the right time of the year. Be it for the local market, be it for the export market, it's important that you do the right market survey, reach out to people. It's actually very important to find out the market before you even start planting. Now the challenge, most people, farmers actually, the major challenge to us farmers is actually the market. If you just go there and you plant, hoping that you're going to take to the market, you find everybody has brought. But if you go and seek out the market first, the people who are going to buy your product, they'll be able to tell you the type of products they want. If it's a variety of a particular horticulture, they'll be able to tell you. And they'll be able to tell you whether they want it organic or whether they don't mind whether it's also inorganic. You'll be able to get that information. And if it's going to be for the local market, for the export, you'll be able to know. So by the time you plant, you'll have known the kind of magnitude and volume prospective buyers want. In some cases, you even have to do contracts, when you have to do contract farming with particular people that want to buy your product. So the market is very, very key, because that is the ultimate goal of a farmer, to make sure that he gets market for their products, so that by the time you produce, they are not coming out as waste when there's too much produce out there. Then also, there are types of crops, for instance. There are those crops where you don't have control over, things like vegetables, fruits, because those are perishables. So once you produce them and you've not identified the market before, you are likely to sweat and they're likely to rip you off, especially the middlemen. And when they see that you're a little bit hard with your price, they just pull back and, wait a bit. You start going into panic because they are maturing, they are flowering, they are ripening, and in a week or so they'll start going back. But if you have identified the buyer from the word go, then they're able to even come and monitor the garden as it progresses during the vegetative state, during the flowering stage, and also the harvesting. You're able to get in touch and they're able to look at the size of the garden and split the volumes and how often it will be coming out. Say every after 2 weeks, you'll be able maybe picking out certain fruits that are ready for the market. All that can be arranged if you've done your market survey properly. But there are also these other crops whereby the farmer is in control. Crops like cereals, for instance. You can be able to harvest your rice, you can be able to harvest your beans, you can be able to harvest your soybean and sorghum and dry it. Once you dry it, you are able to keep it. It's not a perishable that is going to put you under a lot of pressure, and that maybe you're worried that where you're likely to sell these cereals, because those can even wait up to 3 months when they're still in good condition if you really do the right storage arrangement. There, you're not under pressure from a middleman or from somebody who wants to buy. You are able to look out for the market in your own time, provided you know the shelf life of some of these crops, if they don't have to take more than 3 months. But at least 3 months, it gives you more of that room to be able to juggle and see how you can be able to do it. That way, you will be in charge of the pricing. Nobody is going to just gag you around, because you'll be able to take your time and reach out to different buyers and see that one who's giving you a favorable price. But if it's for the vegetables, you have really no much say but to trust the process, but also ensure that you get your buyers on time. As a farmer or somebody who's going into this crop farming, try to visit other farms. Try to reach out to your peers to see what they are doing on their farm. If you are, for instance, interested in cereals, say maize or rice production, there are members out there that do maize and rice. Reach out to them, go visit their farms, study and see the varieties they are doing and why they have chosen those varieties. varieties. There are those that take longer, those take shorter time to mature, and also the geographical area where they've been able to plant them. And you'll be able to understand. For instance, if you choose maize, there are so many varieties of maize. There are those that take long and those that take shorter period. And there are many factors. There are those that yield highly and those that may not necessarily yield highly. But that one is able to make you get more informed as you venture into this crop farming business. I felt it quite important to share out this information, and you start or you adjust your program and the way you do things with more knowledge. I think that is good that we help one another. So if you find this information helpful, why not? You can consider subscribing. That way we can be able to journey together and support one another.